Ivan time. Here we go. We're on page 209. 209. All right, we're flying through here, guys. But this will be our last little entry for this week. So let's do our mental bookmarks. Let's flip back. You can flip back with me or watch me flip back or at least flip back in your brain with me so we can know where we're at in the book. Again, good readers do that. Good readers visualize, right? They picture what they're reading in their head like a movie. So you've been picturing that. I hope you've been picturing Ivan beating on his chest and getting all angry, like that was our last chapter we just read, as I can see. Picturing Ruby, picturing Bob in your own little way, picturing what Mac looks like, picturing what the inside of that domain or that cage looks like. Just all that stuff, guys. That's what good readers do, and I'm trying to help you do that, and I want you to do that. Okay. So I flip back. I see angry. I see puzzle pieces. I see nervous. I see an H. Yeah, a lot of painting he's been doing, and he knows where he needs to paint now. Right? He said he needed words to go along with that painting. So I don't know what is. Did we tell us the word? Do we not know the word? I know we have a H. Right? Is the H is the letter that he wanted to make, and then he says there on 199, a word, right? He tells Bob, home is the word he wants to use. So, what does Ivan have in store? I don't know. We're gonna see, right? What did he paint? So the last thing we see, and just a little side note, Ruby is not fighting back anymore, right? She's just kind of doing what she's gonna do. Nothing's changed. So Ivan is up to something, right? It's change he's going through. So he shows the paintings to Julia and George, right, her dad, and he takes them. George doesn't see anything. They calls them blobs. She sees them and is like, man, maybe they mean something else to Ivan, right? So they look at him, and then Ivan's really nervous. He wants Julia to notice and see, and then they walk away. So George says he's going to turn him into Mac, because remember he's been selling those paintings now. That didn't go over well with Ivan, and that's the last thing we read. He beat his chest. They said you could hear it from 3 miles away, and he jumped around and hooted and hollered and screeched and bellowed and beat his chest, and it dropped them in their tracks, right? They dropped all the paintings. They stopped in their tracks and turned around. Bob was hiding because he was so nervous. Can't imagine how Ruby was feeling. I'm sure she was scared to death, but Ivan said he's angry. I have somebody to protect. And that was what I'm thinking we talked about the last time is it's Ruby, right? That's who he has to protect. All right, here we go, 209. Puzzle pieces. After a long while, I grow quiet. I sit. It's hard work being angry. Julia looks at me with a wide, disbelieving eyes. I'm panting. I'm a little out of shape. The heck was that? George demands. Something's really wrong, Julia says. I've never seen Ivan act this way. Seems to be calming down, thank goodness, George says. Julia shakes her head. He's still upset, Dad. Look at his eyes. My pictures are scattered all over the floor, like huge autumn leaves. What a mess, George says, sighing. Wish I hadn't bothered sweeping tonight. Do you think Ivan's okay? Julia asked. Probably just a temper tantrum, George says. He reaches under a chair to retrieve a brown and red picture. Can't blame the guy, stuck in that tiny cage all these years. Julia starts to answer, but then she freezes. She cocks her head. She stares at her feet, where my pictures lie in disarray. Dad, she whispers. Come, see this. I'm sure it's another Rembrandt, George says. Let's pick these up and get going, Jules. I'm exhausted. Dad, she says again. Seriously, look at this. George follows her gaze. I see blobs. Many, many blobs. Along with the occasional swirl. Please, can we go home now? That's an H, Dad. Julia kneels down, straightening one picture, then another. That's an H. Here. She grabs more pictures. But this one here, and I don't know, maybe that one. You have an E. George rubs his eyes. I hold my breath. Julia's running now. She picks up a picture, sets down another. It's like a puzzle, Dad. This is something. A word, maybe words, and a picture of something, a giant picture. Jules, George says, this is crazy. But he's looking at the floor too, wondering from picture to picture and scratching his head. H? Julia says. E-O? O? A? Julia chews her lip. H-E-O? That looks like an I. H-E-O-I? George writes in the air with his finger. I-E-O-H. Not the letter, an actual I. And that's a foot. Or maybe a tree and a trunk. Dad, I think that's a trunk. Julia runs to my window. Ivan, she whispers, what did you make? I stare back. I cross my arms. This is taking much longer than I would have thought. Humans. Sometimes they make chimps look smart. Can you believe this is happening? Right? She noticed, just like he thought he would. She would notice, right? So the drawing, putting together, home, is she going to get it? Does she know what it's going to be? All right, I don't know. Let's see. Finally, Julie and George take the pictures to the ring, where there's room to see them all. An hour passes as they try to assemble my puzzle. Ruby's awake now, and she and Bob and I watch. Ivan? Ruby says. Is that a picture of me? Yes, I say proudly. Where am I supposed to be? That's a zoo, Ruby. See the walls and the grass and the people looking at you? Ruby squints. Who are all those other elephants? You haven't met them, I say. Yet. It's a very nice zoo, Ruby says with an approving nod. Bob nudges me with his cold nose. It is indeed. In the ring, Julia pumps her fist in the air. Yes, she cries. I told you, Dad, there it is. H-O-M-E. Home. George gazes at the letters. He spins around to look at me. Maybe it's a coincidence, Jules. You know, once in a trillion kind of thing. Like the old saying, give a chimp a typewriter. Give him long enough, he'll write a novel. I make a grumbling noise, as if a chimp could ever write a letter, let alone a book. Then how do you explain the rest of it? Julia demands. The picture of Ruby in the zoo. How do you know it's a zoo? George asks. See the circle at the gate? There's a red giraffe in it. George squints and tilts his head. Are you sure it's a giraffe? I was thinking more along the lines of a deformed cat. It's the logo for the zoo, Dad. It's all over their signs. Explain that. George gives her a helpless smile. I can't begin to. I'm just saying, there's no logical explanation. Look how big this is. Julia puts the last piece of Ruby's right ear into place. It's huge. It's definitely large, George agrees. Julia watches me. She chews on her thumbnail. I see the question in her eyes. She turns back to the paintings and stares at them, looking, truly looking. A slow smile dawns on Julia's face. Dad, she says, I have an idea, a big idea. Julia races around the edge of my painting, her arms spread wide. Billboard big. I'm not following you. I think this is meant to be on the billboard. That's what Ivan wants. George crosses his arms over his chest. What Ivan wants. He slowly repeats. And you know this because you two have been chatting? Because I'm an artist and he is an artist. Uh-huh, says George. Julia clasps her hands together. Come on, Dad, I'm begging you. George shakes his head. No, not doing that. No billboard. No way. I'll get the ladder, Julia says. You get the glue. I know it's dark out, but the billboard's lit. Mac'll fire me, Jules. Julia considers. But think of the publicity, Dad. Everybody would know about Ruby. You want me to put a sign that shows Ruby in a zoo with the word home on giant letters. George gestures towards my pictures. A sign, incidentally, that just so happens to be made by a gorilla? Exactly. And you want me to do that without Mac's permission? George asks. Exactly. No, George says. No way. Julia goes to the edge of the ring, carefully not to step on any of my paintings. She picks up Mac's claw stick. She walks back and hands it to her father. George runs a finger along the blade. She's just a baby, Dad. Don't you want to help her? But how could it help, Jules? Even if lots of people see Ivan's sign, it doesn't mean anything's going to change. I'm not exactly sure yet. Julia shakes her head. Maybe people will see the sign. They'll know that this isn't where Ruby belongs. Maybe they'll want to help too. George sighs. He looks at Ruby. She waves her trunk. It's a matter of principle, Dad. Principal. L-E, George corrects. Dad? Julia says softly. What if Ruby ends up like Stella? George looks at me, at Ruby, at Julia. He drops the claw stick. The ladder, he says quietly, is in the storage locker. Would you do it? If you were Jules or if you were George? Would you hang the sign up on the billboard? The next morning, I watch Mac's car slam to a halt in the parking lot. He leaps out. He stares at the billboard. His jaw is open. He doesn't move for a long time. So he found out what he was painting. I don't know, guys, about you, but that is very exciting, right? In the zoo, the symbol of the zoo, Julia recognized it. That's what he got from the commercial. That's what he knew he needed to add to it with the word home. They found it. They did it. All right, I want to see your reactions to this. I hope you enjoyed that. And next time we'll pick up and see what Mac thinks about all this and what in the world is going to happen next.